In this podcast episode, former Navy SEAL Ephraim Mattos shares his experiences in combat and the psychological toll of war. He discusses the complexities of conflict, the cost of freedom, and the importance of humanitarian efforts in the aftermath of violence. Mattos also reflects on his transition from military service to founding a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing aid in conflict zones, emphasizing the need for awareness and understanding of global issues. Mattos begins by sharing his profound experiences in combat and the psychological toll it takes on individuals. He emphasizes that going to war is not about achieving a grand resolution, but rather about securing a limited amount of freedom for a select few. His reflections on the nature of conflict reveal a stark reality. War is a tragic necessity that often leads to irreversible changes in those who participate. He recounts his decision to volunteer as a medic in Mosul, driven by the urgent need to help civilians caught in the crossfire. He acknowledges that witnessing the horrors of war leaves an indelible mark on one's psyche, making it impossible to return to a state of ignorance. During the discussion, Mattos reflects on the American perspective of freedom and the tendency to take it for granted. He believes that the military's effectiveness in protecting the homeland has led to a lack of understanding of the realities of war among civilians. He argues that while it is essential for people to be aware of global conflicts, it is equally important not to let that awareness consume their lives. Instead, they should enjoy their freedoms while supporting those who fight to protect them. He stresses the importance of understanding the motivations behind conflicts, noting that many who commit acts of violence genuinely believe they are fighting for a righteous cause. Mattos delves into the complexities of human nature and the inevitability of conflict. He posits that as long as differing ideologies exist, war will persist. The idea of coexistence is often a naive notion, as fundamentally opposing beliefs cannot harmoniously coexist. He highlights that individuals involved in conflicts often see themselves as the heroes of their narratives, which complicates the path to peace. He expresses a desire for a world where shared values can lead to understanding and resolution, but he remains skeptical about the feasibility of achieving lasting peace. Mattos recounts his grueling experience during Hell Week, a pivotal part of Navy SEAL training. He describes the physical and mental challenges faced during this period, including sleep deprivation and extreme physical exertion. Despite the brutality of the training, he emphasizes the importance of humor and camaraderie among trainees, which helps them endure the hardships. He shares a personal moment of vulnerability when he nearly quit during Hell Week due to a back injury and the lingering effects of a viral illness. However, he ultimately found the resolve to push through, driven by a vision of his future self as a SEAL. Transitioning from training to actual combat, Mattos reflects on the psychological impact of taking lives. He notes that while he was prepared for the realities of war, the emotional weight of killing, especially when it involves innocent lives, is profound. He recounts a specific incident where he and his team encountered two young girls in a dangerous situation involving the Taliban. As they were laying low, Mattos began waving his arms and yelling to alert the girls, who were initially unaware of the imminent danger. The Taliban fighters, upon realizing they were being observed, retreated. This moment highlights the unpredictability of combat and the instinct to protect innocent lives, which Mattos emphasizes as a core part of his mission. During his second deployment, Mattos experienced frustration as he witnessed the suffering of civilians in conflict zones while being unable to intervene. Stationed in Thailand, he felt a strong desire to help those affected by violence in neighboring regions, particularly in Burma. This sense of helplessness solidified his decision to leave the military and seek ways to assist those in need. Mattos discusses the importance of being open about his experiences, stating that bottling up emotions does not help anyone. He believes that sharing these stories serves a dual purpose. It helps him process his trauma and raises awareness about the realities of war. He reflects on the brutality he has witnessed, including a particularly traumatic event in Mosul, where he encountered the aftermath of an ISIS attack that left hundreds of civilians dead. The vivid imagery of a family caught in the crossfire remains etched in his mind, illustrating the horrors of war and the impact it has on those who witness it. Mattos delves into the mindset of terrorist organizations like the Taliban and ISIS, explaining that they do not value human life in the same way that Western cultures do. He describes how these groups often use civilians as human shields, demonstrating a complete disregard for the lives of women and children. This fundamental difference in values complicates the possibility of peaceful coexistence. Mattos argues that the violence he witnessed was not just a result of ideological differences, but also a reflection of a deep-seated belief system that dehumanizes others. Transitioning back to civilian life after experiencing such trauma is a significant challenge for Mattos. He acknowledges that while he has learned to cope with the memories and images from combat, the process is ongoing. He emphasizes the importance of having a support system, particularly his parents, who provided him with a safe space during his darkest moments. He also discusses the concept of survivor's guilt, feeling a sense of responsibility for those who did not make it back from combat. He shares his strategies for decompressing after intense experiences, which include spending time with loved ones, reading, and processing his thoughts through writing. Mattos believes that acknowledging the trauma and allowing oneself to feel the emotions associated with it is crucial for healing. After leaving the military, Mattos felt a strong calling to continue helping those in need, particularly in conflict zones. He founded Stronghold Rescue and Relief, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing humanitarian aid in areas affected by war. He explains that their mission is to protect innocent lives and provide medical assistance to those caught in the crossfire. He describes how they operate in collaboration with local authorities and always prioritize the safety of civilians. Mattos recounts a specific rescue mission in Iraq where he and his team saved a little girl hiding under her deceased mother. This mission exemplifies the organization's commitment to humanitarian work, even in the face of danger. He emphasizes that their focus is not on combat, but on providing aid and support to those who need it most. The conversation shifts to the implications of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and the subsequent rise of the Taliban. Mattos expresses concern over the military equipment left behind, which has empowered terrorist groups. He argues that the way the withdrawal was executed was unacceptable and has had dire consequences for the Afghan people, particularly women and girls who are now facing oppression under Taliban rule. Mattos believes that the U.S. should have maintained a presence in Afghanistan to prevent the resurgence of the Taliban and protect the rights of civilians. He stresses the need for accountability in foreign policy decisions, particularly when they lead to loss of life and suffering. As the discussion progresses, Mattos highlights the complexity of global conflicts, including the ongoing situation in Gaza. He emphasizes the need for a nuanced understanding of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, particularly in light of the October 7th attacks by Hamas. He argues that while the Israeli military is often criticized, they are working to rescue hostages and protect civilians, even at great personal risk. He points out the importance of recognizing the propaganda used by terrorist organizations and the impact it has on public perception. Mattos believes that the Western world must support Israel in its efforts to combat terrorism while also acknowledging the tragic consequences of war for innocent civilians. Mattos expresses concern about the general public's lack of awareness regarding global conflicts and the historical context behind them. He believes that understanding history, psychology, and philosophy is essential for making informed decisions about foreign policy and humanitarian efforts. To address this gap, he has initiated a project called the OverWatch, a newsletter aimed at providing concise updates on armed conflicts and crises around the world. This initiative seeks to educate the public and encourage deeper engagement with global issues. Through his experiences and insights, Mattos underscores the importance of compassion, understanding, and action in the face of suffering. He encourages individuals to take an active role in learning about the world and supporting those in need, emphasizing that every effort counts in the fight against injustice.